It was a sun-drenched Saturday, September 15th, 2007. A relaxed, cheerful atmosphere filled the Castello neighborhood in the northern part of Belo Horizonte. With a pleasant temperature of 20 degrees Celsius under a clear sky, the day was perfect for an outdoor gathering. Amanda Ferreira, a respected 32-year-old pharmacist, and her husband, Rodrigo Souza, a 34-year-old civil engineer, were attending a barbecue at the home of Paulo Mendes. Paulo was Rodrigo's colleague at the construction firm where they both worked. Paulo's residence, a two-story house with a spacious leisure area, was bustling with about 20 guests that afternoon. Amanda and Rodrigo, known for their stable 8-year relationship, 4 of which were as a married couple, had arrived punctually at 3 p.m. As several guests later confirmed, they brought a bottle of red wine and a dessert. Amanda had made herself. Around 6:30 p.m., as the sky began to bleed into shades of orange, heralding the sunset, guests started to notice the couple's absence. Initially, no one was concerned. It was common for people to wander through the house or step away for private conversations. It wasn't until 8:15 p.m., when Paulo was trying to organize a group photo, that the prolonged absence of Amanda and Rodrigo sparked a general sense of unease. "We searched every room in the house," Paulo Mendes stated in his police deposition. "We called their cell phones several times, but they went straight to voicemail." Their belongings were still there. Amanda's handbag, Rodrigo's wallet, their car keys. Their silver Honda Civic remained parked in front of the residence. The last person to have interacted with the couple was Claudia Rocha, a friend of Amanda's, who recalled seeing them around 5:45 p.m. According to her testimony, Rodrigo mentioned wanting to show Amanda something interesting on the veranda roof. Rodrigo had had a few beers, but he wasn't visibly drunk, Claudia declared. He said he had discovered a perfect angle to see the sunset from the side veranda roof and wanted to share the moment with Amanda. Access to this roof was via an external staircase leading from the garden to the second floor, followed by a small metal ladder. The space was not designed for guests and was used only for occasional maintenance. The initial searches conducted by the guests themselves revealed no sign of the couple. At around 9:30 p.m., with concern mounting, Paulo Mendes called the Minas Gerais military police. The first unit arrived at 10:10 p.m., officially commencing the search. Officers meticulously inspected the residence and its surroundings, including the veranda roof. There, they found 2 empty plastic cups and Rodrigo's powered-off cell phone. There were no signs of a struggle or any clue as to what might have happened. The area around the house was scoured throughout the night, with sniffer dogs joining the search around 2 a.m. on Sunday. The disappearance of Amanda and Rodrigo deeply shook their families. Amanda's mother, Maria Ferreira, who was in Ouro Preto for the weekend, returned immediately upon hearing the news. "My daughter would never just vanish without telling anyone. Something terrible has happened," she declared through tears in an interview 2 days later. The formal investigation began on the morning of September 16, 2007. Led by Delegate Ricardo Almeida of the Specialized Homicide and Personal Protection Division in Belo Horizonte. The first 48 hours were deemed crucial, with teams working around the clock to collect statements and evidence. All 20 guests from the barbecue were interviewed, creating a precise timeline of the couple's movements. It was confirmed that Amanda and Rodrigo had interacted normally with everyone, showing no signs of tension or worry. Multiple witnesses corroborated that the couple had seemed to be in high spirits. One of the first theories was that of an accident. The veranda roof, where the cups and phone were found, overlooked a preserved forest area that stretched for about 500 meters to a small creek. Searches in this region were intensified on the second day. The roof structure showed no damage or signs of collapse. explained Lieutenant Felipe Rocha of the fire department. However, the outer edge had no guardrail or any form of protection, which could easily lead to an accidental fall, especially considering alcohol was consumed at the event. Simultaneously, investigators began to analyze the couple's financial and personal history. Amanda and Rodrigo led a stable life with no significant debts. They were well regarded in their professional and social circles. There were no records of serious family conflicts or recent threats. However, a relevant piece of information emerged on the third day. Carlos Gomes, Rodrigo's colleague, revealed that their company was competing for a major public project and that Rodrigo had expressed concerns about potential irregularities in the bidding process. He mentioned he had discovered some inconsistencies in the cost spreadsheets and was considering whether to report it internally or to external authorities. Carlos stated in his deposition. This revelation opened a new line of inquiry. Could their disappearance be linked to a potential corruption scheme? Police began to analyze company documents and Rodrigo's personal computer, which was seized from his home. Meanwhile, the search in the wooded area near Paulo Mendes's house continued without success. The sniffer dogs had indicated a trail leading from the veranda roof to the edge of the green area, but the scent was lost about 100 meters into the woods. During these searches, a bracelet identified as Amanda's and a button, possibly from the shirt Rodrigo was wearing, were found. The theory of a kidnapping gained traction but began to lose credibility after 10 days passed with no contact or ransom demand. The families did not possess the extraordinary wealth that would justify such an act, and the method did not match typical kidnapping cases in the region. After 2 weeks with no significant progress, the case gained national attention. The media began to intensively cover the mystery of the rooftop couple, as it became known. A tip came from a man who identified himself only as Marcos. He claimed to have seen a white van parked on a side street near Paulo's house around 7 p.m. on the night of the disappearance. According to him, 2 men were carrying what appeared to be an unconscious person. The informant hadn't contacted the police immediately for fear of getting involved. While potentially valuable, the tip was difficult to verify as there were no security cameras on that street. The case took an unexpected turn on October 14, 2007, exactly 1 month after the disappearance. During a more thorough sweep of the forest, a fire department team using metal detectors located a plastic bag buried about 40 centimeters deep. Inside were Amanda's cell phone, along with both of their wedding rings and other personal items. The location was about 300 meters from Paulo's house in a dense, hard-to-reach area. Forensic analysis of the phones revealed they had both been turned off at 6:03 p.m. on the day they vanished. This finding reinforces the hypothesis of a premeditated crime, Delegate Ricardo Almeida announced at a press conference. The way the belongings were carefully buried suggests a deliberate attempt to hide evidence and hinder the search for the victims. In parallel, the investigation into the alleged corporate irregularities advanced. Files on Rodrigo's computer confirmed he had compiled information on over-invoicing in the construction company's contracts. In a password-protected file, he detailed a scheme involving company directors and high-ranking state government officials. On October 22nd, police raided the construction company's headquarters and the homes of 3 directors. The CFO, Marcelo Bueno, was taken in for questioning after notes were found in his home bearing Rodrigo's name, followed by phrases like serious problem and situation to resolve. During his interrogation, Marcelo vehemently denied any involvement, but admitted Rodrigo had questioned some company procedures. A crucial breakthrough occurred on November 3rd. An anonymous tip pointed to a previously unchecked security camera at a gas station about 2 kilometers from Paulo's house. At 7:23 p.m. on the night of the disappearance, it had recorded a white van matching the description from the informant. Although the footage was low quality, investigators were able to partially identify the license plate. This led them to a private security firm, Agia Segurança, which occasionally provided services to Rodrigo's construction company. On November 10th, a raid was conducted on the security company and the home of its owner, Jorge Teixeira. In the company's garage, they found the suspect van. Preliminary forensic analysis detected small traces of blood on the vehicle's floor, despite an apparent thorough cleaning. The company's vehicle logs showed a significant inconsistency. The van in question had no official record of departure or return on September 15th. A search of Teixeira's home office uncovered a prepaid cell phone hidden in a secret compartment. It contained coded but suggestive text messages exchanged with Marcelo Bueno, the CFO. Problem R solved, area clean, awaiting balance as agreed. Confronted with this evidence, Jorge Teixeira initially remained silent. However, after 72 hours in custody, he decided to negotiate a plea bargain. His deposition, given on November 15th, revealed the disturbing details. "I received a call from Marcelo on September 14th, he confessed. He said he needed to solve an urgent problem with an employee who was threatening to expose irregularities. He didn't explicitly say he wanted the employee eliminated, just that the problem needed to disappear. I interpreted that as a request to scare the guy." According to Jorge, he assigned two of his most trusted men, Antonio Silva and Ricardo Ferraz, both ex-military police officers dismissed for extortion, to carry out the intimidation. The initial plan was to intercept Rodrigo when he was alone, take him to an isolated location, threaten him, and convince him to drop his investigation. "What was reported back to me is that things got out of control," Jorge continued. "When Antonio and Ricardo arrived, they saw Rodrigo and his wife on the veranda roof, having a romantic moment watching the sunset. They decided to wait, hidden in the nearby woods. When the couple started to come down, the two men confronted Rodrigo in the garden. Amanda started screaming and Ricardo struck her to silence her. They told me he didn't control his strength, and the woman hit her head on a rock, losing consciousness." According to Jorge's account, Rodrigo reacted violently upon seeing his wife injured and began to fight with Antonio. During the struggle, Rodrigo was also severely wounded. Realizing the situation had spiraled completely out of their control, the two men panicked. They decided to remove the bodies from the scene, using the van they had parked on a nearby street. Jorge Teixeira's testimony led police directly to Antonio Silva and Ricardo Ferraz, who were taken into custody on November 18, 2007. Confronted with their former boss's statements and the mounting evidence against them, both men confessed to the crime, though their versions of events attempted to downplay their individual roles. It was Ricardo Ferraz who finally revealed the location where the bodies had been hidden: a remote area in the Serra do Corral, approximately 30 kilometers from Belo Horizonte. On November 20th, following an operation involving dozens of police officers and firefighters, the remains of Amanda and Rodrigo were found in a shallow groove, partially covered by rocks and vegetation. The forensic analysis at the scene, along with subsequent examinations, confirmed the causes of death. Amanda had suffered cranial trauma from a fall after being assaulted, while Rodrigo had multiple stab wounds to his chest. The date of their deaths was established as September 15th, the very day they disappeared. Based on the confessions and evidence, the public prosecutor's office filed charges against 6 individuals. Antonio Silva and Ricardo Ferraz were charged with double homicide with aggravating circumstances. Jorge Teixeira was also charged with the same as the mastermind, but with a reduced sentence due to his plea bargain. Marcelo Bueno was charged as another mastermind, and two other directors of the construction company were charged for their part in the corruption scheme that motivated the crimes. The investigation revealed that Rodrigo had indeed uncovered a massive scheme of overbilling on public works projects, involving millions of reais. The documents found on his computer were crucial to a parallel investigation, which led to the indictment of 8 public officials for passive corruption and embezzlement. The trial for the double homicide took place in August 2008, resulting in severe sentences. Antonio Silva and Ricardo Ferraz were each sentenced to 42 years in prison. Jorge Teixeira received 28 years, reduced to 18 because of his testimony. And Marcelo Bueno was sentenced to 36 years. The others involved in the corruption scheme received sentences ranging from 8 to 15 years of imprisonment. The case sent shockwaves through Belo Horizonte and across the entire country. Amanda and Rodrigo's families, though devastated by their loss, found some solace in seeing justice served. Nothing will bring our children back, but knowing that those responsible will pay for their crimes brings a sliver of peace amidst this unbearable pain, stated João Souza, Rodrigo's father, after the trial. The tragedy also led to concrete changes in the fight against corruption in Minas Gerais. In 2009, the state legislature passed the Amanda and Rodrigo Law, which established new protections for whistleblowers reporting irregularities in public contracts and strengthened systems of control and transparency. Paulo Mendes, the host of that fateful barbecue, carried a profound sense of guilt, even though he bore no responsibility for the crimes. If I hadn't hosted that barbecue, if I had noticed they were missing sooner, maybe things would have been different, he confessed in an interview years later. Paulo eventually became an activist for public transparency and against corruption, founding an NGO named after his lost friends. The story of Amanda and Rodrigo remains a grim reminder of the high price that can be paid in the fight against corruption. What should have been just a pleasant afternoon among friends turned into a tragedy that exposed the rotten core of a corrupt system and the brutality of those willing to do anything to protect their illicit schemes. If you've watched this far, it's because you care about these cases that scar families forever. Leave a comment saying, "I watched until the end," so I can get to know you and see who truly cares about the search for truth. 5 years after the case's legal conclusion, in September 2013, the Amanda and Rodrigo Memorial was inaugurated in Belo Horizonte. It is a space dedicated to the couple's memory and to raising awareness about corruption and violence. Located near Praça da Liberdade, the memorial has become a meeting point for families of missing persons and a symbol of the fight for justice and transparency. Maria Ferreira, Amanda's mother, turned her pain into social action. After retiring from her job as a teacher, she began coordinating a support network for the families of missing persons in Minas Gerais. "Every person we help find their loved one, alive or not, is a way of honoring my daughter's memory," she explained in an interview marking her 10th year with the network. The case's impact also extended to the corporate world. Several construction and engineering companies in Minas Gerais implemented anonymous reporting channels and more rigorous compliance programs. The construction company where Rodrigo had worked, after paying millions in compensation and facing administrative sanctions, underwent a complete restructuring of its management and governance. On the law enforcement side, the case prompted changes in disappearance investigation protocols. The Civil Police of Minas Gerais revised its procedures, establishing new guidelines that prioritize the rapid collection of initial evidence and a thorough verification of possible links to organized criminal activities. In 2017, 10 years after the crime, a documentary produced by an international streaming platform reignited interest in the case. Titled Silence and Corruption, it featured new testimonies and in-depth analysis of the crime's circumstances and its repercussions. The production's investigative work revealed that besides those convicted, other individuals potentially involved in the corruption scheme were never formally charged. This revelation led the public prosecutor's office to reopen part of the investigation in 2018, resulting in the indictment of 3 more former public officials and 1 businessman. The new convictions, though carrying lighter sentences due to the passage of time, reinforced the message that crimes of corruption do not easily fade from social memory or the judicial system. Rodrigo's parents, now elderly, followed this development with mixed feelings. On one hand, it's comforting to see that the search for truth continues. On the other, each new chapter reopens the pain of our loss, commented João Souza, then 78 years old. What we wish for now is that our son's story and Amanda's will prevent other families from going through to the same suffering. The case's impact crossed borders. In 2020, a Canadian university included what became internationally known as the rooftop case in its curriculum for studies on corruption and organized crime in Latin America. Foreign researchers began to cite the episode as an emblematic example of the lethal consequences of systemic corruption. Meanwhile, in prison, the fates of the convicts diverged. Ricardo Ferraz, one of the direct perpetrators, passed away in 2019 from health complications. Antonio Silva is serving his sentence in a closed regime, having had all requests for progression denied due to his problematic behavior. Jorge Teixeira, who benefited from the plea bargain, progressed to a semi-open regime in 2022. Marcelo Bueno, considered the intellectual author of the crime, remains in isolation in a maximum security penitentiary, where he continues to deny his role in planning the murders despite the conclusive evidence. The place where the tragedy occurred also underwent a transformation. Paulo Mendes's house was sold years later, and the new owners completely renovated it, removing the veranda roof that had become a macabre symbol of the case. The wooded area where the couple's belongings were found was later turned into a small ecological park with a discreet plaque honoring Amanda and Rodrigo. Each year on September 15th, family, friends, and activists gather at the memorial for a simple ceremony that keeps the couple's memory alive and highlights the importance of the fight against corruption. At these gatherings, new cases of threatened or assaulted whistleblowers are discussed, and protection strategies are shared. The blood of Amanda and Rodrigo was not shed in vain, stated prosecutor Claudia Martins, who worked on the case during the 10-year anniversary ceremony. Their involuntary sacrifice awakened our society to the violence hidden behind corruption schemes, which are not just crimes against public funds but direct threats to human life and dignity. The story of the couple who vanished during a barbecue in Belo Horizonte became more than just a police case. It transformed into a symbol of human vulnerability in the face of greed and corruption, but also of the persistence of truth and justice, even when confronting the most powerful interests. Don't forget to leave a like and share this video so that more people can learn about this tragic but important story. Your support helps keep the memory of Amanda and Rodrigo alive, and the commitment to the truth they defended until the very end.